All righty. Welcome, everybody. And we may have a couple of individuals that are coming in here a little bit late. And if that happens, that's perfect as well, too. So, super excited. This is one of my favorite journeys on the planet. And I'm just really excited to talk about it. And for those of you that are here with me in person, I'm really excited to meet each one of you. Some of you I know that are here in person are actually going to Peru with us already in September, so I'm excited about that. But I do want to make sure that this presentation and this info session works for you. So those of you that are here live, this is for you. And I'll walk through a little bit about what the journey is like. And one of the things that I'm going to tell you up front is for those of you who've been on a Green Adventures tour, you'll know this. For those of you that don't, you're going to know this. Flexibility is the name of the game on all of our tours. They are not cookie cutter tours. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second as well, too. So as I laid this presentation out, it somewhat goes in the flow of what the days will look like when we are in Peru, but it might change a little bit. Some of that changes based upon weather, and maybe some other things as well too. So there might be a little shakeup in that, but that's part of the adventure. So a little bit about me, and for those of you that are here live, I'm going to go ahead and open the chat. But give us your name, where you're coming from, what city, and for me, if there's something in particular that you really want to know about, learn about, hear about on this presentation, let me know. I'm Tracey Seward, and I am coming in from Chicago. And I've been affiliated with Green Adventures and with Tara Short, who's the CEO and founder of Green Adventures, since probably 2015 or so. And one of my, the way that I would say that I met and came to contact with Green Adventures was through a student tour. And that is exactly where Green Adventures started. So I'll talk a little bit about, for just a couple of minutes, Green Adventures. And you're going to hear, how passionate I am as well about Green Adventures, Tara's mission, our mission, and the role that I also have at Green Adventures on top of leading the Peru trip. But again, you'll see this, and this is why I'm so passionate and here today, is we are all about helping you, helping everyone fall in love with the wild, right? And extraordinary places. And I said this just to those who had joined us earlier, these are not cookie cutter tours. Green Adventures tours are not, a tour that you would pluck out of, insert whatever tour company. They are custom. They evolve every single time that we adventure to one of the locations. In some cases, Tara and I experiment while we're there, and we will talk about what we loved and what didn't work, and then that will evolve every single time. But the mission is still the same, right? Helping you fall in love with extraordinary places through ecotourism. The places, this is not an exhaustive list, but I wanted to have this out there so you can see where Green Adventures does travel. And before I go there, what's important, that I don't think I said it, is the very first trip. I said it on the back of maybe how I was introduced to Green Adventures was on a student tour. And it was my freshman at the time daughter who was going to Trinidad and Tobago. And I was a little bit uncertain of what that would feel like, having her leave Chicago for the very first time internationally alone. So I showed up at this webinar and this infomercial, and then ultimately I stuck myself into the tour, and I was a chaperone, and I went on the tour. That's where Tara started. And it goes back to 2009, Green Adventures. It did start with educational tours. And I think we still talk about the very first tour is Baja, Mexico. But it is for both women and for students. And of course, there are co-ed tours as well, too, that we do lead. But this is not an exhaustive list. One of the things that I've been talking about on our Saturday morning Facebook Lives that we've been doing for about 2 months is the invention of what we're calling Green Adventures Mini. So on top of these tours that may be a week to 2 weeks in length, we're also starting to develop minis. And there are some people who basically have said, I can't go away for that, take PTO for that, that long of time. But the minis are very, very interesting to me. So be on the lookout for that. Some of those are in locations that are somewhat in the Midwest. We are open to many other locations, but it is a different price point and it is a different duration. So that is attractive to some people. How do we do it? Tara and I say this every single time. It starts with a dream. And I don't know how many times we've left a tour and we said, where are we going to go next? Or what sounds cool and what sounds amazing? Or what have you told us as adventurers that you'd like to go do as well too? So you will always hear us saying, where do you want to go? Because that's exactly how this starts. And for this particular tour, I'll talk a little bit about this in a minute, but this one was on my bucket list for probably more than a decade, maybe even 15 to 20 years, Peru, that is. And I'll talk a little bit about that as well, too. But that is exactly where these tours start. Every single tour has a strong and very established and developed relationship with the local guides. So the local guides and the local vendors and suppliers that we use have been with us for years. And that's also a pretty cool part. So we roll into Peru, and every single time, that's one of the first things I do is to hug and to give kisses to our Peruvian guides, because they have been with us for such a long time. And that is the way it is on all of our tours. The experts are the ones that are going to take us on our adventures, as they know the languages, they know the terrain, they know when things need to shift, and we want the experts with us. Maybe a couple more things I will say, and I think I said it here too, but it's always off the beaten path. One of the tours that I also lead here too as a tour leader at Green Adventures is Mount Kilimanjaro. So we are summiting Mount Kilimanjaro again in June. The reason I'm raising that is because off the beaten path, it is not the typical super touristy path that we take. And that is very much the same for all of our tours. We take a longer trek on that one. We want, if we can get to 100% success rate, that is our goal. So we have gone off the beaten path and take a much longer route to get up that mountain. And that is exactly what we do on all of our tours. They are custom, and they may even get evolved and shift as we're on tour based upon how things are going with each of the group, each of our members, but custom and off the beaten path. The last couple of things I think I'll say, and then I'm going to jump into Peru, and hopefully you can see it and feel it already through the wires. Every single one of us are incredibly passionate educators, travelers, curious explorers, and love what we do. And for me, a little bit more about me, I for those of you who I haven't shared this with, I'm coming out of 30 years in corporate America. And I laugh because I say I've traded my 4-inch heels and my pencil skirts for my hiking boots. And it's the best job ever, but it is one of the things that I'm doing right now, but this isn't new to me. This is something that I've always done on weekends, and every single, hour of PTO that I had would be adventuring and exploring. I'm the kid who, left early in the morning in Northeast Indiana, went out and built tree houses and came home when, and my parents didn't really worry about that, but when, I was hungry and I needed to come back in for dinner. So love the outdoors. And again, for us, that curiosity spans across, I would say, all of our travelers. And the shared experience is a critical piece here. The comment that we reference all the time, and I'll mention it here as well too, you might be traveling alone, you might not. I know some of our individuals that have signed up for Peru are coming together, mom and daughter. We've got friends that come on our tours as well too, but you may be coming solo. That is exactly the way that I traveled for so very long. And I would say also in the corporate world, I traveled all the time, but I traveled alone. I showed up in my environment, and I went to my meetings and I led my meetings, and then I got back on the plane and I went home. That's not super satisfying and fulfilling. And that was one of the things that I said, I want to continue to explore places that I go. I want to stay longer. I'm going to never eat alone. And I'm loving the new relationships that I develop on every single one of the Green Adventures tours. So I won't get into any more of the details here. You can read the slide, but we'll talk very specifically about what all of this means for Peru. But let's jump in. So Peru, This tour is September 6th to the 13th. It's a little bit earlier this year. Actually, my birthday falls in this window, which I think is going to be pretty fun and pretty cool. But it is an incredible, spectacular location. My reason for going probably 10 to 15 years ago was I traveled a lot in Mexico. I've done a lot of the different ruins. I've done the Great Wall of China. I've been to the Taj Mahal. I've been to a lot of those places, the wonders, but I still hadn't been to Peru. And I started to say, gosh, is this one of those places, Machu Picchu, where we might have some ultimate risk at some point of not being able to enter these ruins? And I said to myself, I've got to make this happen. So I did, and this was the beginning of the discussion and the excursion that Tara and I have been leading here at Green Adventures. One of the things that we also did in Peru, and we won't do that on this tour, but there may be some individuals that will want to go on the back end or the front end of the tour that I'm about to describe to you, is to go off into the Andes even further and go off into an Alsangate hike. That's another hike that we lead. That could be a shorter 4 or 5 day, up to an 11-day. Super high altitude, super high altitude. So we'll talk about altitude here too, but that is something, if we typically do it, we're going to want to do it after we've acclimated. But let's not talk about that one right now, only if there's interest at some point here too. So I'm going to jump in September 6th to the 13th, and I'm going to start to talk a little bit about what the tour looks like, and I'm going to do it through photos. And so I encourage all of you, if there are questions, if you want me to pause, please do that. I'm hesitant to tell stories, but I'm excited to tell stories, but I'm also easy to stop and take you wherever you want to go. But I'm also going to take time before we leave here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about things that I think are important. I'm going to talk about altitude. I'm going to talk about physical fitness. I'll talk a little bit about food. So know that that's coming as well too. And also, we don't have to wait for that if you want to jump in on me here too. So to start the tour, as you all know, probably by now, Cusco itself, we fly in from wherever you fly in from around the world. Typically, it is the United States, but you're going to fly in traditionally and typically always to Lima, Peru. That is at sea level. And a lot of times, depending on the flights, you might end up, or if you want to come in a little bit early, you might want to explore Lima. I usually spend one night at most because I'm ready to get to Cusco and I'm ready to start to acclimate. The altitude is very low in Lima, as I said, but as soon as you get to Cusco, as soon as the jet bridge opens up, you can feel the altitude. It is at a little more than 11,000 feet when you land in Cusco. And again, we'll get into altitude and altitude sickness in a little bit here too, but altitude sickness can start to set in at 8,000 feet. So do the math and know that I'm going to encourage you now, and I would encourage you, if you sign up for this trip, when you get off the jet bridge in Cusco, walk very slowly. Don't try to run, don't be excited, but take your time. The first couple of days, we're going to stay at this altitude. That is the best way to acclimate. And the city center of Cusco is incredible. I feel like every time I go there, I always want a couple of extra days. I never get enough time there because the city itself is just incredible. So we'll take time in the city. We'll acclimate. We're going to do some day tours. We're going to check out some museums. We'll go to the market. And then what we also do, and this will be in Cusco town, is we do a cooking class. And it is an incredible cooking class. Because what we do is we actually go buy our ingredients. So we will walk with the chef and we will buy our ingredients at the local market. And it typically is the fruits that you see here and the vegetables and not the meat. The meat is he's got the meat back at his shop. But then we'll return after we've done a little shopping and we have this cooking class, which is one of my favorite experiences in Cusco, also because I love Peruvian food. The thing that I'll say about this class that I feel like is a common question, may have come up later, but we definitely had some. It's a meat eating country, clearly, but we definitely always have vegetarians or vegans that are interested in understanding what does the meal look like, and this was one of the first experiences. And just to be really clear, no worries at all. So we will have both options 3 options. If it's gluten-free, this chef is incredible and basically continued to tell us, I've got you covered. And we always shopped for the respective dietary restrictions as well if needed. But that's still your first couple of days. And then what happens next? Again, and I say this, Palcoya Mountains will take your breath away. They'll take your breath away visually and literally, physically and literally. And this is actually the other Rainbow Mountains. So you probably have seen both sets, may or may not know that there are 2 sets of Rainbow Mountains or regions in Cusco. The reason that we choose this particular one is because it is, again, off the beaten path. It isn't any less beautiful than the other Rainbow Mountains or the ones you probably see in many of the movies. A lot of times what I've seen there is you're going to see other Rainbow Mountains. You're going to see dune buggies rolling in. You're going to see drones everywhere. It's very touristy unless you get there at a very, very early time in the morning. This set of Rainbow Mountains is not. It is incredible. You almost feel like you own this set of mountains yourself. But the thing about these Rainbow Mountains, after we take a long journey from Cusco, a bus ride to these Rainbow Mountains, this is the highest altitude that we will be on the trip. And it is 16,000 feet. That's pretty extreme. And so it's not a long hike. It's a, I don't know, I want to say 3 miles round trip up and down. And we take our time. This is the key to altitude, is hydrate and to take your time and to walk very slowly. So that's towards the first quarter of the trip. So we're at high altitude, and then we start. Let me stay here. I forgot about this video. Hopefully you can see it. I don't know if I actually set this up properly. Can you guys all see the video? If you can't, I'll share it with you offline. Yes, awesome. Yes. Awesome. I have so much footage of this. I could have just inserted so many videos because you could then feel what it feels like at the top of this mountain. But you can also see there's just no one around, or very few people around, period. And so this is one of many, many scenes that you will see off to the back. As I flip around, you're going to see the Ausangate. That's going to be snow-capped Andes. But this range of mountains is just, it's breathtaking. It is breathtaking. You have the ability, if you are not feeling well, because sometimes this happens, we get up to the point where we start this hike, this 3-mile round trip hike. You don't have to go any further if you don't want to. If you've made the decision that I just want to stay right here and I don't want to take this hike, you don't have to take the hike. There's also an addition that when you get to the top of where most people go on this mountain, if you want to go just a little bit taller, a little bit higher, it will take you up to almost 17,000 feet, not that much higher, high enough, but it's an add-on that we offer as well too. And it doesn't take that long. So we don't hold anybody up. This is one of my favorite parts. So I think what I want to do is I'm gonna zip through a little bit here. Feel free to jump off if you want me to pause anywhere. But what we end up doing next is taking a tour through the Sacred Valley. And I'm going to show you some of the places that I 100% know that we're going to visit. And I'm going to maybe feed in a couple of other places that we may visit as well too, depending on time and depending on where we're at. But this is an incredible 2 days that we spend in the Sacred Valley. And what's going on here right now, not only are we moving into the wonderful culture of Peru, but we're also acclimating. There's always that subtle, like, what are we also doing here? We're also kind of taking you back down a little bit in altitude, but allowing you to experience this beautiful culture of Cusco and of Peru. The Chinchero markets, weaving capital of the world. Again, I mentioned this when I first joined. This may not look like weaving, but it is knitting. This is baby alpaca fur that I'm wearing, and just an incredible market that after we sit and watch these ladies do their magic with the textiles, that is still in tradition today, still going on today. It is sold in the markets all over Peru. We have the opportunity to do a little bit of shopping at the end too. that's only a piece of this. What's really just really amazing is to watch from beginning to end, whether it's the textile weaving and or it is taking the yarns and the fur of the baby alpaca, from cleaning the dirty fur all the way through to weaving the fur, dyeing the fur. Right, this is not obviously there's no purple alpaca in Peru, but we get to experience this hands on, and it's super neat experience to watch the women of this market. This is just a couple more of the market, so you can see the balls of yarn, of course, are all dyed. They're dyed with, as you can appreciate, which is all what's in one of these photos here, herbs. It's all herb dyed, right? So it's all 100% natural. And then we continue in the Sacred Valley, and we are in the salt mines. And this is a phenomenon to me that I've seen this in photos, I've seen this on TV, but until you're standing on the edge and you're looking out over the mountains at these salt mines, it's something you could never even imagine. And what's hard to see is these little basins here in these photos. This is water, but these go on all around this particular set of salt mines that we enter into. And you cannot, as a tourist, go on over and into these. So I was kind of curious, can we walk inside this little maze of salt? And the answer is no, but you are so very close to this and can experience this tradition, which is just incredible. There are locals that live back in here. And of course, this is what generations of these families, continue to do today. And then, of course, you're going to hear me say this probably on every single one of these. There is the ability to slip off after we finish our tour here into the small markets of the salt mines. And it's funny, I still take a bath in the salts that I brought back. I still have some left from the last trip in September. But you can buy the salts. You can buy the salts to bathe with. You can buy them to cook with. Local chocolates and local trinkets as well too. And that they're all supporting the respective local communities that we're in. So this is another, I probably could say phenomenon on every single slide of Peru, because to me, it is a phenomenon every single day that we set out on our tours in Peru. And so again, I would call this, these were my words, Incan laboratory. But these are the terraces, and we will see many of this. This is just one picture in one location where we see the terraces that still exist from the Incan traditions. And again, they go through this, they talk about it. We sometimes walk down in through there, and it depends on whether you want to or not. But you will physically feel the temperature change. You will feel the humidity levels change, because that's the concept of the laboratory here as they were developed, as they were growing and testing, whether it was different potatoes or different crops at these different levels. This picture of me gives it absolutely no, I feel like, dimension of the depth of this particular terrace, but you can probably appreciate it when you start to think about the altitude and the significant height of the mountains that are here in Peru. And again, I'm not positive. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what this is, but we're not positive where this is going to fit in which day of our journey. It's going to be in the journey, though. This is our Pachimanca ceremony. This is a ceremony where we enter a local village, and they bring up the traditional traditions that they've had for so many years of cooking in the ground. So we will cook the vegetables, we will cook the meat. They will go through the feast. They will show us how they do it. We will stand around them. We will help them prepare. And then we get to eat the feast afterwards. And again, I'm already, talking again a little bit about what the food is like. But if you're a vegetarian and you do not want to eat the meat is separated by all kinds of different leaves. There is protection and that the meat is not touching anything. But this is just a super special ceremony that we will 100% weave into one of the days, likely when we're in the Sacred Valley of this tour. And of course, I probably don't have to say it, but this local village also has their own small handmade textiles that are sitting in their homes. We will be in their homes, and cooking, in their backyards essentially. And they have just incredible trinkets to sell as well too, only if you wish. And then we enter into Machu Picchu. So I'm gonna take a little bit of time here. Any questions so far? I'm gonna take a little bit of time in Machu Picchu and tell you about options that we have here. Um, Great questions, Laura. So Solis, it says Solis is the currency there in Peru. We will get you ready. For those of you who have signed up for the tour, we will tell you exactly where to convert, the best place to convert, how much we recommend that you convert at the airport. I can't remember the outlet type right now, but that is always also it might be E or C. It is also in our packing list, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. Um, the thing about the currency, it's always a good question that everyone asks, very much like traveling in South America. As soon as you leave the cities, and we're out in the villages that I just showed you, so I think it's probably timely to actually talk about currency. It's ironic to me still how many places will take U.S. dollars, or they will have their little swipe, or their little square device to take our cards. But it's better to be safe than sorry, and to have some solace as you enter out into these more remote villages that I just went through. But we have all of that in our packing list and all of our detailed lists when you sign up. So Machu Picchu, it, it I'm going to take and go forward here for a second, because I just think this is a fun picture, because what you're starting to see right here is, and I could have taken a pan back. This is the train into Machu Picchu town. The train ride itself is, for me, it's like out of Harry Potter, a Harry Potter movie. So it is a couple of hours tops, but you move through so many climates. You will see it. You will see the rainforest. You will move through, a variety of different, more mountainous, type climates, all in that short window of time. And that again, the train itself, the windows on the ceiling are open, so you get to, explore and see everything that's going on actually all the way around you. But we will enter Machu Picchu town, and we will get on the Inca Trail, the short Inca Trail from Machu Picchu town, right off of the train. I want to say this to everybody here, because I'm going to talk more about, the physical fitness, and because that's always a question I get is, how fit do I need to be? What do I need to do to get ready? This is the strenuous part of the trip. And that can probably be appreciated, the short Inca Trail. If you find as well that the Inca Trail hiking is not for you, that's okay too. We always have an add-on, and we'll create something in the local town of Aguascalientes that you can do while the hikers are on their hike. I just want to put that out there. But if you are a hiker, I don't even want to say if you're a hiker, please don't think you've got to climb Mount Kilimanjaro to do this. It is not easy. I just want to put that out there. But if you are with me, and we're in kind of the training zone together, you can do this. And I have seen women in their 70s that have taken and made this Inca Trail happen. There may even be individuals in their 80s. But it is, if you can do it, I highly recommend that you do it. I threw a couple photos in here because I want you to have a visual of some of this hiking. You move very fast. So we've gone from 11,000 or so feet altitude. We go down to just about 8,000 feet in this Machu Picchu region. You can appreciate we're going to go up a little bit in altitude as we look out over Machu Picchu, but you can see right here, right? Day one, within the first couple of hours, have made some pretty significant altitude climb. But these trails are wide. That's another question I get a lot. What are the trails like? Are they narrow? Is there a steep drop off? The trails are decently wide, and that's why I wanted you to see these photos. And I would say some other things to think about here, and there may be questions that you're thinking about as well too. it probably, I want to say maybe 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, and it could take longer. I'm going to tell you what we try to do and what we will do if we need to make modifications. We want to get down to Machu Picchu by dark. We want to be out by dark, and you don't want to necessarily be up in these mountains. And we have done it every time. And if we need to modify, if we need to help folks carry their backpacks, if we need to do something different and pace ourselves different, we will. So I would say 6 to 8 hours max it takes us to get up, to get to the sun gate, which I think is one of these pictures right here where you can start to see Machu Picchu, and then to get down to get to the bus. Here's the lookout. It is spectacular. It is spectacular, even if it's not a sunny day. So we are now at the top here in the Sun Gate area, and then we will move down really quickly to get down and off the Inca Trail to get to the buses. But it is one of the most breathtaking and just spectacular scenes I have ever seen. This is a really good day. The sun is shining beautifully on the Machu Picchu ruins themselves. The second day, I'm gonna stay here. The second day, we have this in two days, the Inca Trail in 2 days. The Inca Trail itself happens in one day. But what we do if we're hiking the Inca Trail is we want to make sure that we've got time for all of us to get down into Machu Picchu and really get down into Machu Picchu, touch Machu Picchu, walk through the ruins, hear the stories. And that happens the second day. And that typically we try to get there early in the morning, so we beat all the crowds, and we have a couple of hours there. And you really just get to soak in all the magic and the spiritual, feelings of Machu Picchu on day 2. If you didn't hike the Inca Trail with us, you'll do your day tour the day that we're doing our Inca Trail. And then you'll meet us, in Aguas Calientes town the night before, and we'll all experience Machu Picchu together. Yeah. Hydrate is a must. There's a question in our chat right now. And I'm going to keep saying this maybe multiple times. Jill, thank you for saying it here too throughout it. The best way to address and get in front of altitude sickness in any way is to hydrate. And as you're hiking the Inca Trail, one of the things that I will share with you now is you will carry a backpack. You will carry a backpack that will have at least 2 waters, probably 2 liters of water in it. I don't think you should carry more than that. We will have water at lunch. We will get through this quicker. And it is rainforesty, so it is a little bit moist. But you will be drinking your water. You will be carrying your water. That is weight on your back. And you will be carrying the necessities, right? You're going to want your rain jacket, which isn't, ultimately that heavy, but you'll be carrying a lunch. So I would say roughly plan to pack on your back on the Inca Trail anywhere from 15 to 20 pounds, maybe 25 if you've got a heavy backpack like me. And you will be drinking, and I will be reminding you to drink even when you think you don't want to drink. I will be reminding you all the way up that trail. Yeah, Jill, thank you for saying that. One of the other really very special things that we do, and sometimes we do it at the very beginning of this tour, and sometimes we will slot it in towards the end, which I think is what we'll do on this tour, is a shaman-led ritual, and it's a very spiritual celebration of Mother Earth in Peru. And typically what we do is we will have a small hike. We will get, close to a very unique ruin. And then we will have a small hike into this ruin where the shaman will be there and he will be preparing. And we will go through the celebration of Mother Earth with him. And what you'll see here in the bottom right, these are cocoa leaves. This is something else that I'm telling you, for me, this is such a good thing for altitude. It is truly cocaine, but not, right? It is not, it does not have the drug in it. It is, the raw leaves. But if you're chewing on these leaves, or these leaves are in tea, which is what we recommend, it is such a helper for any altitude sickness, which might be the headaches, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But there is a part of the ceremony where we take the the coca leaves, and we do, a bit of a, family health and, professional, and you can appreciate it here with the three leaves. A little bit of a tea leaf reading as well, on this part. We eat lunch. It's an incredible lunch up on a mountain that is overlooking Cusco as far as you can possibly see. So this is before I come into altitude here, had the tagline of this next section. This is one of the other areas, and you'll start to see again the terraces here, within the Sacred Valley. This is a different one that I showed you earlier, but it's just incredibly spectacular. And off to the side here on one of the mountains as well is a burial ground where they're still, extracting, the bodies that have been buried so many decades, in centuries ago, from the Incans. But this is another one of the terrace locations that we may or may not get to on this tour. Put this one in here because I wanted to show you that, but I also wanted to say you're now getting a feel for the altitude here. And I'm not going to go through, all of these different places, but I'm going to kind of give you some of the headline of, and I wanted you to visually see this. I couldn't find a better picture of this. Maybe for the next one I will, but I want you to see where we land at Peru, right? At zero, it's a little more than zero, maybe 500 or so, very similar to where I'm at in Chicago. But where we get to in Cusco, and this is in meters. So again, Cusco is over 11,000 feet. And our tallest altitude, or highest altitude on this trip is going to be the Palcoya Mountains, which happens towards the beginning at 16. And I'll say it now, and I'll keep saying it, water, water, water. So I don't know if any of you have experienced altitude sickness. I know as a kid, I remember just as my parents took a road trip across the country, and I remember hopping out when we made it from Indiana to Denver, and I remember hopping out of the car, and I remember racing into the Denny's, and my brother fell over, right? We were just too much and too high of altitude, and he fell over because he passed out at 8 years old. And that was my first experience. That is, I don't even remember what Denver is, but it might be close to the 8,000 feet. Cusco is at 11, reminder. And so what you will get, and they're probably, for most of us, is no getting around the gentle headaches, maybe a little bit of more than a gentle headache. There may be some nausea, there may be some diarrhea, some difficulty sleeping, loss of appetite. But the thing that I want to say to you, I've gone to these locations. I've climbed Kilimanjaro. I've done high altitude hiking in Peru without Diamox, and I've done it with Diamox. That is an altitude medicine. And it is night and day for me in terms of how my body reacts. It isn't the same for everybody, though. I know there are individuals that are not comfortable taking Diamox, but I've also seen individuals that have just chosen not to take Diamox and get very sick. So if you are open to that, I highly, highly recommend it, but I would absolutely make sure that you have clearance from your doctor before you do. And they will give you exactly the prescription and the method of how and when you start to take it if you've never taken it before. And here we are, right? So what's prevention, right? It is, number one, it's acclimatize. And that is why we intentionally get to Cusco, high altitude, and we stay in Cusco, right, for a period of time. And we will, I assure you, we will be moving slow. If we do, multiple things in the city of Cusco in the tour, we're going to be walking slowly. There is no rush. There is no pressure. You may find that you are more tired than normal. I know that I am when I get there. And so you may find yourself wanting to curl up and turn in, earlier of an evening and or take naps, right, as well too. And that is highly recommended. And stay hydrated, as we've already talked about a couple of different times. I've never drank so much water as when I get to altitude. And this 3 to 4 liters seems like it's a whole lot of water. You'll surprise yourself. You will drink so much water. You will continue to be thirsty. We will have water There will be water that we will bring in from the local towns that will be bottled water for us. And, if we run low, we will get to supermarkets where we will find bottled water. So the water is safe for you to drink. Any questions? I'm going to keep going, but I'm watching the chat if there's any questions. So, and I know I've already talked a little bit about the food, and I am such a fan of Peruvian food. I'm actually going to dinner tonight with a good friend of mine to a Peruvian restaurant, Tanta, here in Chicago. And I think it just because I started pulling these photos together, I'm like, I think I need some Peruvian food. It is incredible, and it will always be fresh. And even if we go to the top of the mountain, and you probably can't necessarily tell what it is, but this middle photo here is just an incredible bowl of quinoa with chicken, and there's edible flowers in it and fresh vegetables. That's on the top of the mountain. So, we have packed, box lunches that are also just incredible. And again, I will say it again, um, we will ask ahead of time, and we will know what your dietary constraints are if you have them. And we will box the lunches accordingly, and we'll make sure that we take care of it. So, physical requirements. You can sort of see also a little bit of the side, a little bit more of one of these terraces. And again, the ability for us to walk down inside of those even early in the tour may be an option as well too. And having said that, there is a lot of walking, right? I would say it is easier at the beginning of the tour. What's tough about Palcoya, which is towards the beginning, I've shared with you, is the gentle hike, and it is a gentle hike. It is 3 miles or so round trip, but it is at altitude, and that makes everything a whole lot different. And for those of you that are going on the tour already, that are here, when we have our pre-trip meeting, I will talk about specifically some of my recommendations and what I do to train for altitude. You may or may not choose to do those items as well too, but what I would say to start with is when you are able to really work on your cardiovascular fitness, I find for myself that my breathing is so controlled, so much better controlled. And there is a little bit of yoga techniques that I sometimes I help people with as the breathing is, it will be very shallow at times as well too. And some of that is definitely gets you a little bit nervous in your mind. But once you get there and you settle into it, it's second nature. The moderate fitness level, and I would say the steep stone steps that I put in here as well too, is the Inca Trail. And the other thing to share about the Inca Trail, though you've seen some of the photos, you could imagine the widths of the trails that we will be climbing. The stairs of the Inca Trail, when you hit them, and there are a lot of stairs. I can't remember the exact number right now, but it's extraordinary. And some of them are normal stairs, and some of them are very, very narrow stairs. Like my foot is a size 10, and my foot does not fit on those stairs. So I end up having to go, sideways and kind of shimmy a little bit as well too. They're very small feet, our Incan friends, but there are stairs. And so that is why I would suggest moderate fitness level. Uneven terrain, coming down is always tougher for me. It's tougher for many of us. And I will always recommend trekking poles because it just is so much easier on your knees. This is definitely not a packing list, but this is just giving you a feel for what some of the individuals might be taking or wearing on a day out in Peru. The thing that I want to just highlight here from an overarching context perspective is that one of I think the most robust things that we offer here associated with our tours is a comprehensive packing list. And I mean comprehensive. We've done these tours so many times that we know exactly what works, what is needed, what isn't needed, What might be needed, and we'll tell you that, we'll tell you, optional, but they're very, 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 very robust packing list. And that is something that we will give to you as soon as you sign up, so that you can start to get ready. I always recommend to people watch those REI sales if there's some things that you need, REI outlet, whichever vendor it is, but you can start to plan that ahead of time. I would say, like, what's the number one thing that I would recommend to take, that 100% outside of like the backpack? You're going to need the backpack, and we'll talk through all of that. I've already said it. It's trekking poles. You may or may not use them every day. You will not use them in the city unless you want them, and maybe you want one. But the trekking poles for sure is something that I would recommend, of course, and a hydration bladder in your backpack. All right. I am at the end. And for those of you that have not registered for the trip yet, and you have questions for me here or offline, or if you're ready to rock and roll, Shauna, our social media individual, put our QR code in here. We are ready to travel with you. I was trying to think, I feel like there's other things that might have been left out of this, but drop questions in if you've got them. I know we're close to the top of the hour. Jill, good question. And this is a question for an individual, for those of you who are listening to the recording, that has booked the trip already. When can you book airfare? What I'll say, Jill, for everyone that has not booked the tour yet, generally for Green Adventures, we ask you to hold on booking your airfare until the trip is confirmed. And what does that mean? That means we've put the trip out to the public to start to sign up, and we need a minimum number of participants just to say we confirm the trip. And if we don't, and you've paid your deposit, we can't get enough people to confirm, we will refund your deposit. But we always say, don't book your airfare until the tour is confirmed. For those of you who are specifically here for Peru, which I'm sure all of you are, this trip is confirmed. And Jill, you, I know, are going on the trip, and you should see a note from Carrie. I'm hoping this week still as well too, to start to give you parameters on travel. And if you don't, for those of you who are already booked, I will help you with that. That's a great question. I guess in some cases, I know some individuals, and I'm debating this myself as well. Do I also want to do something before or even stay after? And some of you may want to consider that as well. And so you'll want to plan your airfare around that. But for anybody that's going to Cusco, I love Cusco. The last time I went there, 2 times ago, I went there and I worked there, and I stayed there for 7 days. And that was when I did not take any Diamox. I didn't need to, because I was acclimating and working. And I do mean working corporate on a PC, and, selling consulting work and doing all of that. But if you have the ability to do that, that's actually quite special as well too. So I would go into Cusco town and have dinner and, listen to music and just celebrate Cusco and all of its colors. Laura, great question in chat. Will I have suggestions if you come in a day early? The answer is absolutely yes. Absolutely. There is so much to do in Cusco town, and or even, areas that might take a short little drive outside of Cusco that are still at that same altitude, that you could go and explore some additional ruins if you want to as well too, or restaurants. There's no shortage of amazing restaurants in Cusco town. And yeah, we'll have suggestions for you. Okay, so for those of you that are here, don't leave yet if you're still here. I'm going to go ahead, though, for everyone else, and I'm going to turn the recording off. And I hope to see you in Peru if you've not already signed up. And I would say as well, too, if there are any questions that any of you have, as you listen to this recording, don't hesitate to reach out to me as well, too.